a Quick Heal Catawin. That's one thing I'm really excited about getting all our legendary gear on. So all these other builds that I want to play, Quick Heal Catalyst is like well up there, as is Quickness DPS Catalyst. Ever since they made the change to Catalyst, where it's not just like completely messed up from a design perspective and you actually gain energy when you have an orb active, like I'm super keen to play that. But once we get access to all our legendary gear, gearing up those builds is going to be so much easier. Because one of the biggest sources of outgoing gold in Guild Wars 2, especially for a new player, is gearing up new builds. And this is something that really limited my NA account for years. I had so many characters. Even back then, I probably had around 15 or so characters, like a good couple years ago, well before I started streaming and before I had legendary gear. So whenever a new build would come up, I'd like re-gear it, I'd stat swap my gear, I'd do all that, get new trinkets, do all that jazz. And it was just so expensive. Like that's where just like all my gold went. Whereas now that I have full legendary gear on that account, it costs me literally nothing to make a new build. And I can test out any build that I want at any point. It's such a nice spot to be. And I'm looking forward to being able to do that on my EU account as well. Because if I was to gear up a new build, even if I take like a build that's got full ascended gear and I stat swap everything, get new trinkets, like we're probably in the realm of 60 to 80 gold just for me to do that. And combine that with the fact I have over 20 characters on this account, that's a huge amount of gold. So once I get legendary gear, which we're actually not necessarily that far away from, realistically, I think we're probably about a few weeks away from it, of getting like our 5 legendary trinkets and our set of medium armor, so many more builds are going to be active. Callus is so much fun to play after the changes to Sphere Specialist. Yes, I am very keen to try that out. And once we get namely our trinkets, because we have a set of light legendary armor already, it means like those heal builds that are otherwise a bit of a pain for me to gear all of a sudden become much more approachable. Because yeah, if I was to gear up every build I want to play, I'd have no gold towards the legendary gear, and then I'd be stuck in the never-ending cycle of just not being able to get that uber quality of life, which makes established accounts really enjoyable to play. So as soon as we get that legendary gear, we're going to be trying out all sorts of different builds, so stay tuned for that. You just get your Warlord chest from PvP, you have like 30 for stat selectable exotic armor, buy exotic weapons and trinkets, and you directly started working on legendaries instead of ascended. That's similar to what I've done. I've used a lot of world versus world currency to purchase the stat selectable gear, and yeah, a lot of my builds are set up in exotic gear, and occasionally if I'll get like an ascended drop and it's convenient for me to swap it, then I might swap it out. But yeah, on this account I'm going the route of not gearing up every build in ascended from the get-go, having some less than optimal builds, and then just chipping our way towards legendary gear. It's a much more cost-effective way to do it, and honestly, like, we've been playing the game long enough. If we have a build that's an exotic gear instead of ascended, it doesn't really impact us in any real way, aside from we can't do fractals on it. Yeah, exotics are good enough if you don't do fractals. They absolutely are. But yeah, on my NA account, like all the time, I'd be changing up my builds, stat swapping them, new runes, new sigils, the whole shebang. And it was so expensive. And also, even gearing up a full build in exotic, that's actually still surprisingly expensive, because exotic trinkets are actually not cheap. It's actually way more cost effective to get ascended trinkets. Laurels for ascended trinkets are worth it. Oh, there's so many ways to get ascended gear now, which I do cover in my gearing guide. But yeah, there's Living World Season 3 and 4, there's Eternal Ice Shards, there's Laurels, there's Fractals, there's so many out there now.